Some might argue that the content of our music serves as poison to the mind of our generation. If by some stroke of the pen hip-hop was silenced, the issues would still be present in our community. Drugs, violence, sexism, and the criminal element were here long before hip-hop. Traditionally, multi-billion-dollar industries have thrived on the premise of violence, sexuality, and derogatory content. This capitalistic trend was not created nor introduced by hip-hop. It has been here. It is the American way.
What up, y'all? Band TV. As you see on the screen here, you have your two corporations that's heavily involved in your private prisons. That's what we finna talk about today. We're gonna tie hip-hop and private prisons. Check this out.
My whole goals for being here is to preserve hip-hop. And I know this is a culture that involved, and I watched the first panel, we talked about society. It's definitely a part of a problem from society, but we are inflaming this problem by not being responsible. And I want to take that responsibility. This is a business. When I watch everybody get up here and talk about this, this is a financial business. Hip-hop is a $4 billion business. This is a way of life. This is the way we take our kids out of the ghetto. And for me, I could honestly say I was only in it for the money. I had nobody to pat me on the back to say, Pete, you could do something else with your life. Think about the music. Think about the content. Kids are listening. And let's think about the consciousness that we're putting into our music.
Ever wonder why you see the same stereotypes of black and brown people depicted in hip-hop music? What if I told you that some of the biggest music companies are in cahoots with private prison owners, and that the rap music we listen to is not only meant to entertain, but to verbally and visually support criminal behaviors that funnel disenfranchised people into these private prisons?
He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice.
The US government began contracting third-party private prisons in the 1990s, during a period of extreme overcrowding. Today, there are 130 across the country. The two biggest players in the system are Corrections Corporation of America and the GEO Group. Between them, they made $3.3 billion in revenue in 2012. Those in favour of private prisons say they save taxpayers' money and the competition increases efficiency and standards. But are the priorities the same when people are being locked up for profit?
I think that hip-hop culture at its best is a necessary expression of degraded, demoralized young people who find the cultural expression of their identities in a culture that is fundamentally hostile to them as something they have to do. And I think what we should be about doing is interrogating and being more introspective about the practices that are negative in our own communities, then join with hip-hop to clean up across the board the negativity that we find there.
Now, you were performing, by the time you did your solo album, what people call gangster rap.
No.
You were not?
No.
What would you call what you were performing?
Rap music.
Rap music. Yeah. Have you ever performed gangster rap?
No.
Okay, and why would you say that?
Because I don't know, number one, what gangster rap is. Number two, I don't classify what my music is as gangster rap.
Have you heard the term?
A lot.
Okay.
You have your new age serial killers, which is youth, which is being built by the government in a systematic design. And if you're not paying attention to what's going on in this systematic design, you will wind up losing. But right now, you have to, in today's society, you have to kill to survive, because this is what it's a demand for. It's a demand for murder, you know, and it's called supply and demand. And it's a demand for murder, because murder is supplying a lot of things. Because murder is accumulating a lot of money for a lot of evil, wicked people like the elites.
Private prisons saw higher rates of violent incidents and rules infractions. And the private companies behind them are also accused of cost-cutting that's led to lower safety standards, living conditions, and even abuse of prisoners. There's also concern they lobby politicians to influence policy on prisons.
If jails become businesses, what do you have to do? You have to market for your business. and who are you I mean, me being a business major, you have to have your target audiences. And who are your target audiences? My people.
The private prison model was simple: build and manage buildings and secure government contracts. Charge a daily fee for each bed you fill, something called per diem, or what is commonly referred to as mandates. In 1987, Corrections Corporation of America, CCA, today called CoreCivic, charged $32.17 per inmate. By 1997, it charged the government 33% more. However, the company's cost only increased by about 8%. The company's revenue grew 27 times.
It was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remained filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons.
Did you know that there are many of the executives at the high music level are also investors in the privatized prison system? So I have a friend of mine who is a high-level pop star. He has a star on the Walk of Fame. He was telling me that in the early 90s, when it was the boom of ghetto rap music, he said that he with his own ears, heard executives speak over dinner about how they're pushing ghetto rap music. One, because you don't need session musicians, so it's cheap to produce. All you need is a rapper. They get drunk and they get high, and you just give them drugs and they just do their thing. But what does that do? It perpetuates violence, it perpetuates drugs, and it perpetuates crime in the inner cities. So what does that do? Let's push ghetto rap music to get black people to pull out guns, to do more drugs, to beat up on each other, and glorify criminal behavior because that puts them in prisons. And we own the privatized prisons. So we're making money on the front end and we're making money on the back end.
Meanwhile, the Geo Group's CEO makes $6 million a year. How does such an abusive company make that much money? It knows how to play the political game.
Geo Group has told its investors that things like the loosening of drug laws and immigration reform could be very bad for its business.
Geo Group has hired an army of lobbyists in 17 states while donating to over 400 candidates.
If you ask people, should a multi-billion-dollar corporation be able to profit from the incarceration of people and turn around and spend some of its profits lobbying for more people to be put in its facilities, I think the average person in the United States says that that's a really bad idea.
And I was scared. I was scared that I would come to a town and I have the leader of the gang there telling me, what do you need? I was scared, but so was America. So was somebody else, because all of a sudden I had all kind of legal problems. And you have to think about this. I had a clean record for 20 years. A clean record, living in the ghetto, in the gutter, no record. What about my morals then? What about my character then? You know what I'm saying? In 2 years that I start raising noise, that I start being publicly viewed, I've had a record. And now it looks like I'm a criminal who has no way of being reformed. But all of these came one after the other. Do you understand? Right. It takes logic.
2012, CoreCivic, formerly known as Corrections Corporation of America, the biggest name in the private prison industry, contacted 48 states offering to buy their prisons. One requirement of eligibility for the deal was particularly strange: an assurance by the agency partner that the agency has sufficient inmate population to maintain a minimum 90% occupancy rate over the term of the contract. Wait, Fraggy? What? What kind of legal and ethical measures could be taken to ensure the maintenance of a 90% prison occupancy rate? Now let's work together to connect these things, because I'm sure you're a smart person. It won't be long. Let's do the work. In 2012, a mere 232 media executives were responsible for the intake of 277 million Americans, controlling all avenues necessary to manufacture any celebrity and spark any trend.
Your sons or daughters may have CDs or cassettes in their room right now that contain lyrics that promote rape, murder, racism, drug abuse, and violence against women and children.
This is by a group, a BMG group, German distributor, it's a group called Too Short, and the song is I Must Confess.
However, there is no excuse for the continued proliferation of gangster porno rap, such as you've just heard.
I think that nothing less is at stake than the preservation of civilization. This stuff by itself won't bring down civilization, but it doesn't help. And when you combine it with other trends, popular culture, television, family disintegration, a host of other things that were talked about in other contexts, it's not good. It's not good for America. It's not good for other countries. It's not good for our children. It's not good for our future.
It's a powerful and necessary issue to speak about the way in which black women in particular have been degraded and demonized in art forms that claim to speak for the broader spectrum of African American thought, culture, or position. But what's equally interesting is the fact that these are deep roots in American culture when it comes to demonizing women. It didn't start with Snoop Dogg. It didn't start with anybody who's been associated with hip-hop culture. That's white supremacist ideology predicated upon capitalist expansion of opportunity. Talking about commerce, we're in the right place. America is built upon the degrading images perpetuated against black women and men, brought here as slaves, used for free labor to build a country that they are presently denied.
In a lot of cases, you have people who are not attached to a situation, and they're making, harsh decisions based on something that they don't live around, based on something that I don't even believe that they think really exists. Right. The underbelly of America does exist, and it's something that we have to bring to the forefront.
Right. How do you feel hip hop has done in terms of dealing with social issues? Like, I know you've been very at the forefront, Hurricane Katrina, now we got Gen 6. Right. How do you feel hip hop has reacted to these situations?
I don't think that it's hip hop's responsibility. Once again, I think America places too much responsibility on music. That is the problem. We don't place the responsibility on our parents, on the community systems, community centers, the schools. Rap is all we got, so it's like we blame everything. We want rap to raise our kids, put them through school, put them in church. Right. The truth is, it's just a song, homie. And like I told them, I choose to do the type of things that I do because I'm that type of man, not because I'm a rapper.
Art imitates life. The images that I see in here are only a slice of life in the hood. I live in the hood. Where's my slice at in the hood? All right, and where are other productive American citizens who are struggling to get an education? Young people, the Rutgers basketball team, where do they get represented at in these commercial images?
And there it is. You see your two corporations, man, Core Civic, the GO Group, along with all your big time record labels, they all are in cahoots, man. It's all in the same network, bro. The music that you put out influence people to do things that land them in these men's prisons. So, hell, either you gonna get right, you know what I'm saying, or get left, nigga. You know what I'm saying? We gotta start being more positive and getting up out of there, man. But like, share, subscribe, stop playing.